Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. We're in the front yard today, and for those of you that have been following my channel, you know that this is the part of my yard, my property, that I refer to as my Xeriscape garden. And you know, the definition of a xeriscape is a landscape that is not watered. So it only receives whatever natural rainfall that happens to be in that location. And that's the case with this front yard of mine. I've come to realize that what I'm trying to do here, perhaps it's a third strategy. You know, the front yard is often positioned as a binary choice. You either mow the grass, you fertilize it, you water it, you put herbicides to kill all the broadleafs and all the you know, all the species that you don't want. Basically, you just want a monoculture of whatever grass species. And you use pesticides for bugs, and you dethatch the ground, and you do all this crazy stuff so that you can maintain this beautifully manicured lawn. And of course, the lawn that's managed in this way is considered quite deadly from an environmental standpoint. It's almost completely lifeless. It actually has poisons in the ground that kills life, kills bugs, animals, plants, and it's what many HOAs require, but it's certainly not what nature wants. And then the other half of the binary choice is that you just rewild it completely. You let it turn into a, quote, wildflower meadow, right? So that you can attract your butterflies and your bees. But what I found is that for me to try to go with that second strategy, I've got a lot of problems here that I can't really do it that way. And again, those of you that have been with me and been watching my channel since I started it last year, you know what my preference would be, right? Because look at my backyard. And my backyard's much bigger than my front yard, so I'm doing what I really want to do for most of my property, and that's to rewild it with a food forest that produces food for me and for nature, and habitat for nature, and shade for me, and all the things we've talked about here on this channel. But I can't really do that here in this front yard. And for anybody new to the channel, take a look at this shot right here. Okay, that right there, just a mix of Bermuda grass and frog fruit and lots of weeds. I think there's even some St. Augustine grass in there. That's all we had back here in the backyard a little over a year ago. And now it's well on its way to being a really productive and really shady food forest. So that can be accomplished in just a little over a year if you work at it pretty hard. But I digress. Let's get back to the subject here. So why can't I go ahead and do the same thing in the front yard here? There are two main reasons, actually at least three reasons, and there's probably more. First and foremost, could be first to some people, it could be second to some people, but to me it's first, which is that I've got a septic drain field right here where you don't see anything planted. And septic drain fields, most people that know much about them, they know that, you know, your ground needs to perk, which means it needs to be able to let the water drain down into the earth. And if they don't perk, then the county or the city won't let you put in a septic field in that location. You've got to find a place where the ground perks. Well, that seepage of water, if you will, that's one part of the equation for how these septic fields are designed to function, but it's not the whole thing. There's actually two other things that need to happen. And one is evaporation. A lot of water will leave that ground through evaporation. So shady areas generally are not really that great for septic fields. And then the other one is transpiration. Ground covers, and it just so happens that grasses, and Bermuda being one of the best. Grasses, plants that can transpire, as these plants do their respiration, just as we do respiration, and every time we exhale humid air out of our lungs. Plants also respire humid air. It's called transpiration when that water comes out of those little pores on the leaves. So you got that as another mechanism for water to leave the system. So you need plants to do that. However, the catch is, if you put in plants that have big roots, they're going to clog up your septic system. And you don't want that. You get that clogged up really good, and you've got yourself a crappy situation on your hands. Sorry about that pun. So you definitely want to avoid that. So I think what I've done here is I've arrived at a third option. I don't like either one of those two options in the binary. I like this third option. And this is a Xeriscape front yard. And let me explain how this works. I've selected extremely drought tolerant plants. Almost all of them are Florida native plants to my area. So let's go over the plants, because I don't water any of this. I watered a little bit to get some of these plants established, but after that, they're on their own. Okay, so we've got the coon tea. By the way, this is the north side of our home. Coon tea actually works pretty good because it's quite a shade tolerant plant. It won't grow as fast in the shade. These would be growing faster if I had them on the south side or in a sunnier location. But they can tolerate quite deep shade. And they're highly, highly drought tolerant. We've got Yaupon holly here. And I am just trying to get this little tree established for now. But and it's getting established quite nicely. It's looking pretty good. But I intend to prune this so that it becomes a small tree that goes up over 10 feet tall and sort of branches out like a little canopy at the top. Because some people like to prune their Yaupon hollies more like shrubs, like dense shrub rows, but that's not what I'm doing here. And then I've got these saltbush. These are also very small native trees. Saltbush is an amazing plant in terms of it has a very wide tolerance of moisture. So they actually grow really well in the wild in central Florida here and South Florida as well. Close to water, so close to ponds and streams and marshes, and they will love that water and take advantage of it and really grow vigorously in that. But they're also very, very drought tolerant, and that's because they're native to Florida, and that's what happens in the sandy soils of Florida. You go from being really wet at times to being really dry at times, and it can go weeks and weeks and weeks without any rain and super dry like a desert. And then it can rain and rain and rain during the monsoon season and be super wet. Well, saltbush can tolerate all of that. I'm a little bit worried that these saltbush roots over here might make it over into my septic field. If I get too worried about that, or I suspect that, I'll either prune these back really good to keep them small, or maybe take them out. I'm not sure yet how that's going to work out, but I've tried to put them over here, whereas my septic field is over here, so hopefully we'll be okay. Another plant over here is the pink muley grass. That's what all this is. Pink muley grass. I'm looking forward to this fall. They'll put up their little pink seed stalks. That should be pretty. And then we've got more pink muley grass out here as well, all around here in different parts of the yard. I had a whole bunch of the Opuntia cactus, obviously very drought tolerant. And I had 8 or 10 of them. But the big freeze, the coldest weather we've had in over 30 years, of this past late January, early February, it killed all of them except for this one. But this one survived it, so that's a good sign. This one may be able to be good now. Hopefully we won't have that kind of weather again for a long time, and it should be good. It did die back. Even the last little pad there, you can see where it killed it around the edges, but it's growing back nicely now. So yeah, we're highly drought tolerant. Now let's go out here. Out here we've got longleaf pine, and these little trees have established themselves nicely. I'm not watering them, and they're good. So we've got four longleaf pines. Again, removed from the septic tank area. Hopefully they won't cause a problem for me in my septic. I'm taking a little bit of a chance here. I guess it's a little bit of a crapshoot. Sorry again about that. More Florida native, drought tolerant sable palm, sable palmetto, right? The Florida palm tree, native Florida palm tree. We've got, what have we got, about 4 of them here. Now these are small and they grow relatively slowly. It'll be quite a while before these start looking like trees. Well, I'm hoping they'll do well. They seem to be established now. I'm not watering them and they're doing okay. There's the 4th one over there. And then there's another palm tree that I've planted, and that's the jelly palm, pindo palm. I actually planted 2 of them. One of them didn't make it. I think the freeze had something to do with it, but it didn't make it. Got a little bit too cold for it, but it wasn't that healthy anyway. This one was healthy enough to survive that deep cold that we got. Another Florida native that we have out here is wiregrass. There's your wiregrass. Super drought tolerant Florida native grass. These are small, and only about half of the ones I planted survived, but these appear to have made it, and I would like to see them multiply and grow. So again, I'm not watering any of this stuff. And then finally, here's a non-native that I've planted, and I intend to prune it up to grow up like trees, and that's this silver thorn. Silver thorn is normally grown as a shrub, a dense shrub used for privacy hedges, that sort of thing. Sold in nurseries all around Florida for that, normally used for that purpose. It's excellent plant to try this with because it's super drought tolerant. It was able to get through the really dry April and May that we just had this past year, or earlier this year. And they're well established. Now that we're in the rainy season, they're well established. They're going to do fine. Then over here we've made a privacy screen with this sweet viburnum, I believe it's called. That's another one of these Florida hedge plants. Now over here we are going to try to grow this as a privacy hedge, just to block the view into our backyard. So that's a big part of the strategy here, is to go with super drought tolerant plants, mostly native. I think I would like to get some agave going out here in the front yard. It's a desert plant from Mexico. I think agave would be a good choice because I don't think it would interfere with the septic system. It's a super drought tolerant plant. And other types of cactus and plants that can take the cold, because a lot of those type of cactuses and stuff, they can't take the cold. So that's the thing, we have to straddle that problem between it getting sometimes too cold here. And they have to be able to take some rain during the rainy season, but mostly dry. So let's talk about why I'm doing this. Another one of the big reasons is that my neighbors around here, if you look at everybody else's yard, this is the expectation, is that you mow your front yard. Okay? So to just let this go wild and get all overgrown, be frowned upon, I think, by some of the neighbors. But that doesn't mean I have to go all in on the super chemical, super watered. I think it's just insane what people do to create this quote perfect lawn that is almost never used. It's just there for looks. So I'm not into that at all. So as it turns out here, we don't even have to start mowing this grass until the rainy season starts. That's usually around June 1st, plus or minus. Further north, you have to start mowing when there's no more frost, because that's when the lawns start growing and the lawn grass and weeds. Here, they still don't really grow much because it's so dry that time of year. In April and May are pretty dry and brutal. So it's closer to June 1st before we need to mow anything out here, and that's because the rains come, and that's when everything begins to take off and grow. So it's a compromise, if you will. This is a Xeriscape landscape. It's not ever watered. The septic filled area, obviously, is watered indirectly from water overflowing out of the septic tank. And that's why you get some of this really lush looking, this is frog fruit over here. It's quite lush. And this Bermuda will thicken up and get really lush by the end of the growing season this year. Because in addition to the Florida monsoon rains, it also gets that septic field line moisture. And the Bermuda grass is well known to be a good one for septic because the roots just generally don't clog up the pipes. They just don't get big enough to clog up the pipes. So there you have it. It's a third way to look at it. It's a Xeriscape garden using highly drought tolerant plants. I would like to get some more going out here. Eventually, and it'll take a lot of years. It'll take many years, but eventually we'll start to get a little bit of shade out here and cool things down a little bit. Now here's another thing that happens is volunteers show up. And here's an example right here. So here's a native opuntia. This one has the thorns. And you can see the top of it's cut off there because I didn't see it the first time I mowed. Ran right over it with the lawnmower. That's the reason why I have the cage here. Obviously it's not for a trellis, it's just to make sure I know that it's there and I don't run over it with the lawnmower. So yeah, I've got to get out here and mow the grass. I'd rather not. I do have an electric mower, so that helps in terms of a little bit with the energy. I don't waste any energy on my well pump, pumping water out here to water this. So it's got some environmental benefits, this approach I'm talking about. Maybe not quite as many as just letting the whole thing just go wild with wildflowers. And that's another one of the issues, by the way. A septic field line system is probably the most perfect growing condition for Bermuda grass. So even if I tried to get wildflowers growing out here, any wildflower would have a very hard time competing with Bermuda grass in this area. And then if the Bermuda grass is not mowed, if it grows really high, it'll get like 2 feet tall, and you can begin to have problems then where it will not function properly for the septic. You won't get the proper evaporation and transpiration that you need to go along with the ground perking to manage the water from your septic system. So yeah, these are some challenges, but just because you have these challenges, that doesn't mean you have to go all in and spend all the money on water, chemicals, energy, and all the rest of it, and pesticides and herbicides. You don't have to do that. You can go a third route. It's a little more gentle on nature. It's also gentler on your bank account. We don't care that there's all these weeds in here. There must be who knows how many species of plants growing here. It could be 50 or more. And that's the interesting part about just leaving it alone in the spring during that long, hot, dry spring that we have. It's interesting to see what pops up. We actually had some winged sumac pop up in here, but I'm not going to grow that because I think winged sumac could pose a problem to the septic, and those roots could get in here and clog this thing up. So again, we don't want any kind of a situation that could go crappy on us like that. All right, I guess that's about it. Just an update on the Xeriscape and the philosophy of trying a third way instead of just looking at just the binary choice. All right, hope that helps y'all. Y'all have a good one now. Take care and happy gardening.